Welcome to this deep dive. We're continuing our journey through a truly fascinating stack of source material provided by one of our listeners. This time, we're exploring the final sections of a book called Bringers of the Dawn.
That's right. This is actually the third and final deep dive in our exploration of this particular book. We've already looked at some foundational ideas like the frequency fence, manipulated DNA, the power of intuition, and how our thoughts and emotions shape reality.
And today, we're pulling from excerpts of chapters 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, and 21 to get into the culmination of these teachings. Our mission is to unpack the core messages from these closing chapters, extracting the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight for you.
We'll be diving into how this personal internal transformation, the work we do on ourselves, is presented as directly connected to larger planetary shifts. We'll explore keys to accessing higher consciousness and forgotten knowledge, and a surprisingly central theme in these final chapters.
Yes.
Well, the profound role of integrating our personal polarities and understanding sexuality in this whole evolutionary leap the source describes.
It's a lot, and it's definitely, pretty unconventional material, but it's also incredibly thought-provoking. We hope this exploration sparks your curiosity and offers some new perspectives.
Welcome, Wanderers, to this conversation on the Presence Podcast.
Yeah, welcome.
And if you're finding value in these deep dives and the perspectives they offer, we'd be so grateful if you take just a moment to like and subscribe. It truly helps us reach more curious minds like yours.
Absolutely. So let's start right where the source material begins, its final sections with Earth itself. Chapter 15 presents our planet not just as, our home, but as a profound treasure, a sentient being so unique it actually draws visitors from far across space just to witness its beauty.
That immediately shifts the scale, doesn't it? We're not just individuals on a rock. We're part of something much bigger and alive. And the source suggests this changes our responsibility.
Exactly. It challenges us to take the energy of commanding the best for ourselves, something we've discussed before, and extend that intention and care to the planet itself.
Precisely. And it gets quite practical, too.
Yeah.
The source asks us to consider actions like walking your own property and seeing it as sacred space, actively communicating with Earth, letting the planet know you're here and you're awakening to its sentience. It also connects our inner and outer worlds by suggesting that examining your garbage, not just physical trash, but psychological clutter, is actually a reflection of what needs to be cleared within you, mirroring the work the planet is doing.
I love the imagery it uses here, describing each person as a thread of light. Just by moving through the world, being present, you are weaving this thread around the planet. The more threads, the stronger the light, sort of culminating in this collective cosmic wave. It makes your simple presence feel significant.
It really flips the script on some of our prevailing value systems, doesn't it? Think about the focus on perfect manicured lawns, often achieved using, harmful chemicals. The source frames that as a result of marketing, promoting an aesthetic that's fundamentally not in harmony with Earth, contrasting it with honoring the life around you.
And the planet isn't just passive in this interaction. The source presents Earth as a teacher, using disruptions, what it calls Earth changes, as lessons for humanity when we push things too far.
Yes, and some of the predictions are quite stark. It mentions the possibility of drastic events, suggesting something like 20 million people could disappear in an afternoon as a potential wake-up call.
Wow.
It points out that environmental issues that conservationists have been discussing for decades are only now hitting mainstream awareness because the consequences are becoming severe. There's even a specific prediction about countries potentially banning automobiles due to this escalating severity.
It's a powerful way of saying the planet has its own boundaries and ways of rebalancing. But the source doesn't frame these frequency changes or disruptions as purely destructive, right?
No, not entirely. It suggests they're actually designed to uplift, to sort of disengage us from limited, solid, fearful paradigms and bring everyone to a place of greater ease and comprehension.
Okay.
It's a stark contrast between valuing material priorities, our devices, clothes, cars, versus honoring Earth's life. The core message here is quite direct. If humanity doesn't shift these values, if we don't realize our dependence on Earth, the source states that Earth, driven by its own love for its initiation into a higher frequency, will initiate a cleansing process to balance itself.
And this leads to a direct question posed by the source, essentially asking you, the listener, what is your responsibility in this? How willing are you to change your life? The source emphasizes that committing to change within your own life, even small personal shifts, automatically makes that energy of change available to the entire planet. It's a very personal take on planetary responsibility.
Yes, It presents Earth as striving for its integrity, feeling dishonored, and in a process of reestablishing itself, and it draws a potent parallel, linking loving yourself to loving Earth, stating quite simply, they are the same.
That idea that personal integrity mirrors planetary integrity is a really foundational insight from this section. It also briefly touches on how Earth changes could potentially collapse existing systems like insurance or banking,
Right.
not just as destruction, but as a catalyst to foster human connection and triumph through mutual aid during disasters. When systems fail, people often step up for each other.
And the source claims technologies exist right now to clean the planet, but they aren't being used because the species hasn't collectively taken responsibility to honor its nest. And that includes both the planet and your own body. Your body and your planet are presented as your two greatest gifts, the most valuable things you own, urging us to express sacredness and honoring towards them.
So the suggested guide for behavior, according to the source, becomes an internal question. Am I operating with my highest integrity? Am I operating with love? Is love my intention for Earth, for the animals, for all the people I encounter, and for all the things I do?
It challenges our conventional thinking.
Yeah.
The source gives the example of industries asking permission or guidance from Earth before starting a project.
Right, that sounds unusual.
It does. But the source suggests that the only reason this seems foolish is because we've been conditioned to think communication is only possible with things that talk back in a way we understand. If integrity and love were the intention and permission was sincerely asked, it suggests the response would be phenomenal.
Moving towards the future, the source predicts a potential splitting of worlds as enough people consciously create their reality, maybe not for 20 years or more. But leading up to that, it anticipates conflict, war, and what it calls puzzling and confusing space dramas.
Earth is described as being on a dimensional collision course, where many dimensions or probabilities will intersect. This can lead to shocks that alter how you view reality, making things seem to come tumbling down for those whose reality is built on, well, fragile foundations. Shock in this context isn't necessarily destruction. It's presented as a method to alter your viewpoint.
This leads to another core concept, probabilities. The idea of probable Earths and probable yous. The source asserts that reality is essentially energy taking form from thoughts, and by changing your frequency, you literally change which world you occupy. You move on to a different probable timeline.
Yes, it emphasizes that you are frequency and energy. The journey is about learning how to change your frequency and beat so that you can perceive and experience realities that you usually do not notice, expanding your consciousness beyond the familiar third dimension.
Okay, shifting gears now and building on those earlier deep dives where we discussed the frequency fence, dormant DNA, and the importance of intuition and emotion. The source takes us deeper into chapter 16 and 17, focusing on internal rewiring and something it calls the language of light.
Chapter 16 frames periods like the 60s as times of preparation and awakening, showing humanity that new paradigms could be born. Those times sharply contrasted with previous generations' values, introducing concepts of peace, freedom, and the expression of the body in new ways.
The source suggests we came here deliberately to be submerged in a society that had lost its connection to light so that we could fully relate to it. The task now is to integrate our multidimensional selves, our connection to the world of light and spirit, with that dense societal reality, ultimately changing the planet's values and designs.
And this journey involves becoming what it calls heretics ahead of time, individuals whose ideas seem ridiculed or crazy in the moment, but are later proven brilliant. It requires courage to put forth these new ideas, remembering, the source says, that there's assistance from non-physical realms and that we're all part of a global blueprint and global consciousness that individuals help activate and awaken.
And this awakening, this firing of the global blueprint, it happens in waves, right? It's not presented as some sudden chaotic event for everyone at once.
No, exactly. It's more like individuals learn to carry and broadcast this new information and energy, and that creates a ripple effect.
Got it.
The source heavily emphasizes the physical body in this process, specifically the nervous system, as being key to remembering and handling this influx of energy. It describes it as needing a significant upgrade, going from what it calls a 2-lane highway system to a 12-lane highway system to handle the increased bandwidth.
That neurological change can manifest in interesting ways. It mentions potentially remembering simultaneous events, like suddenly recalling being at 2 Thanksgivings in the same year.
Whoa.
As your nervous system integrates data from beyond linear time. It also suggests this process is linked to a potential disease related to the nervous system and memory, because people may struggle to handle the energy or might think they are crazy when they glimpse aspects of their multidimensional selves.
The source mentions gatekeepers, who help regulate how much energy light carriers can handle, unless someone is deliberately choosing a path of self-destruction. It also talks about the necessity of cleaning out caverns of darkness or unresolved energy from this or other lifetimes as part of this integration.
Those who have been on this journey longer are called way showers. They've already done some of the neurological upgrades and energetic clearings, setting the frequency for new joiners.
And it is imperative, the source states, to work in harmony now to avoid repeating past destructive cycles, citing Atlantis as an example.
Right.
The source paints a picture of a coming time when many will broadcast frequency simply by being who they are, assisting others in understanding. Spirit is becoming a way of being, not just a concept. This process is leading to a splitting into two worlds, those who align with light and those who operate from fear and darkness, and the source notes this polarization is already visibly happening.
And for those who don't respond to this energy, who perhaps choose fear or destruction, the source suggests developing patience and compassion, even allowing others to learn the value of life through experiencing consequences if necessary.
Yeah, it reminds us that the soul's journey involves gathering experience across many existences. A key insight here about the source's communication style is stated explicitly. Its intention is to stretch you, to confuse you so that you will be energized.
Interesting. So not just giving answers.
No, the goal isn't easy answers, but to utilize curiosity to explore new areas you never knew existed, creating a new order of identity with courage and humor. It reiterates the rapid pace of evolution, suggesting a move from dense physical to creatures of light in perhaps 10 to 20 years, and acknowledges the natural temptation to feel overwhelmed or keep the veil pulled down.
It also touches on discerning when personal will is overriding divine will, when you're trying to force something, rather than operating from a place of common sense and flow. Physical indicators of successful energy integration are mentioned, like clarity in your eyes, vitality in your skin or hair, how your body feels.
Even fidgeting, because you can't quite contain the energy yet.
Right.
And at times, when the energy feels too much, when you're not calm and centered, the force suggests thinking of yourself like an appliance that needs to unplug. This highlights the crucial role of rest and sleep. Sleep is described as a time when you are unplugged from this specific reality, traveling to other lands, doing work on your physical body, being taught, and recharging in other realities.
Assistance is available from non-physical realms, but the source emphasizes the necessity of self-motivation and involvement to be truly empowered. Those who incarnated knowing this have a role in being examples for others.
And here's a concept that truly stretches the imagination, a major takeaway from this section. The source presents the idea that you do not have to physically die in this time.
Wow. Okay.
Instead, you can change the vibrational rate of your physical being and rearrange the molecular structure to take your body with you into higher realities.
Ascension is presented as possible for a multitude on this planet. It claims some have already done it and returned to show the way. The goal, the source says, is ascension into motherships, or cities of light, dwelling in other realities that our current third-dimensional eyes cannot perceive.
Ascension is explicitly stated as the goal on this planet. The source claims there will come a time when it will be the only way people depart. This process, taking the body with you, is presented as proof that the physical body, which seems so solid and uncontrollable, is a result of a divine orchestration, and that in your consciousness, you can do anything with it. Anything.
Building on this idea of accessing higher realities and information, Chapter 17 introduces the language of light. These are described as tools, almost like artifacts, from avatars and masters infused into the gridwork of the planet. They are symbolic forms that the source says literally have a life of their own.
It's explained as structures, geometric forms, that are implanted within you. Not in a physical way you'd see with an X-ray, but energetically.
Okay.
This is presented as a way of triggering information and allowing for direct transmission of knowledge and energy into your being from the hierarchy working with humanity. The source claims the majority of people are already implanted, or will be if they choose to open and align with higher consciousness. It stresses that no one is implanted without choosing it, even if that choice was made before this lifetime.
This structure is presented as a way of receiving information and energy without relying solely on books or linear intellect. It's about opening to the belief in an immense hierarchy that has been working with humanity since the beginning.
The source mentions a specific number, 144,000, as members of this hierarchy infused in the grid work, each with a seal representing a portion of the language of light that you can eventually integrate.
But the process starts smaller, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You work with 12 core geometric forms the body can initially hold. This is described as a mutation process unfolding within your DNA, allowing movement into another realm of understanding and being. It's potential for all, but requires the desire to align with higher consciousness. Implantation is presented as happening when you become aware of divine consciousness, call to it, and consciously ask to be a portion of it, to be a carrier.
Examples of these core forms are given: the pyramid, representing unity and energy gathering; the sphere, the spiral.
Which is described as a bridge, teaching coded information, the form of DNA itself, and a way of writing light-encoded filaments.
Okay. Parallel lines, the cube, and the Merkaba vehicle, a five-sided figure representing the unlimited human being, with the potential for conscious non-local travel, but that requires significant commitment.
The source clarifies that the choice isn't consciously selecting which form you want implanted. It's choosing the life that opens you up to integrating these structures. What's important daily is access to these higher frequencies. Eventually, you'll hold the entire alphabet of light within, and the source says this language itself teaches you. Dreaming of geometric forms or simply loving geometry are given as potential indicators that this process is happening within you.
The spiral, in particular, is presented as a key tool for tapping inside, visualizing riding it like a tornado as a doorway to other realities or dimensions.
Right. And geometric shapes and forms, in this context, are described as collections of experiences of awakened individuals, masters who have evolved and manifested their wisdom as language, as geometry.
It's even suggested that eventually, as we evolve, some may build geometric houses or reshape structures, as shapes and angles are understood to hold and direct energy, similar to ancient knowledge about pyramids or the energy in astrological alignments.
Yeah, avoiding 90-degree angles is mentioned because they can create energy locks, suggesting that curves or different angles are better for energy flow in living spaces.
The source connects this to current events, stating that portals are opening now for this evolution because Earth was sealed off after ancient wars around 10 to 12,000 years ago, where the forces of light lost a significant battle.
Time, the source claims, has been orchestrated to bring about this specific period for light to return and for these energies to be accessible again. Intelligence itself is described as entering in ways that manifest as geometric shapes, citing crop circles as an example.
Okay, crop circles.
Yeah. This intelligence isn't necessarily just ships or physical craft. It can take any guise and operates beyond spoken or written human language. It's frequency. It mentions figures like Pythagoras as those who understood this ancient geometric language.
Crop circles, specifically, are presented as glyphs, implemented by sounds or frequencies above human perception, holding multiple layers of meaning, much like ancient hieroglyphs.
The source even suggests some are designed by ascended masters, and that there's an element of humor involved in their creation. These shapes are called frequency gates, or energy glyphs, connecting to an intelligent gridwork that is designed to facilitate humanity's evolution and work with the reawakening of Earth's vortex centers.
So crop circles, according to the source, serve purpose beyond just appearing mysteriously. They force our linear reality to move beyond pure logic.
Exactly. They trigger consciousness and, in a way, get people feeling rather than thinking. The source specifically mentions the British Isles as having many crop circles because the population is seen as very logically oriented, but the land itself is imprinted with forms that activate intuition, creating a fascinating contrast.
This language of light, then, is introduced as a story, a glyph holding a specific frequency designed to help you hold your own frequency more effectively. And as you awaken and integrate this, others can actually read and recognize you at a frequency level.
The source even mentions that conscious beings are being monitored by devices that track consciousness shifts. Assistance, it says, comes from outside, from these hierarchies. It uses an interesting analogy, comparing it to franchising a restaurant. These shapes, these frequencies, help franchise the frequency you are holding, spreading it and bringing you to a new level of attainment and understanding.
The source also highlights that ancient sacred sites built of stone, and even human bones are skeletal structure hold information. Sound is presented as a crucial tool to unlock this stored knowledge.
Right. Allowing information to flood the body and penetrate the ground. It gives an intriguing example of monks in Tibet keeping the skulls of masters, claimed to be able to access their intelligence through the resonant power of sound.
Crystal skulls are mentioned in a similar vein, not just as artifacts, but as holographic computers designed to transmit information and act as a code for understanding the intelligence stored within your own skull and the value of the bone structure in your body.
Sound is described as a powerful transformation tool and keepers of frequency, which you are encouraged to become. Learn to modulate frequency through conscious use of sound. It's presented as having the ability to move molecules and rearrange realities.
The journey of learning to use sound's power is depicted as a gradual process, often guided, to ensure it's not misused or that you don't overextend yourself out of sheer enthusiasm.
Sound, the source explains, creates ambience, the feeling in a space, like the energy in stadiums. When groups of people make sound with intention, they allow higher energies to play their bodies as instruments, becoming channels for life force.
This brings us back to the emotional body, because the source says emotion is key here. Emotion brings feeling, and feeling allows for the recognition of states of consciousness, unlike the logical mind, which can be locked in ego.
Feeling discerns. Sound brings emotional feeling. The harmonics of sound are said to remind the body of light, of love, of other worlds, accessing a deeply longed-for frequency connected to our dormant DNA helixes. Sound is presented as a conduit to higher chakras that are accessed not by logic, but by feeling.
And intention is paramount with sound. Energy stirred up by sound with clear intention can create a standing columnar wave, a concentrated column of energy capable of destroying or creating realities. The source references the biblical story of Jericho, or the power of native dance and sound in circles as examples.
The war whoop is given as another example, used to invoke non-physical forces, combat opponents, and serving as a reminder of the responsibility that comes with sound. The source notes a common fear of sound and one's own voice, suggesting this stems from cellular memory of times when sound was misused or its power was suppressed. Sound, it argues, creates links and connections where the intellect cannot categorize or understand.
The source also addresses the misuse of sound through negative intent, citing city sirens as an example of sounds specifically designed to alter frequency with fear, acting like a lock or prison for consciousness, preventing focus. Televisions and other electrical devices are also mentioned in this context.
But the source states it shares this information specifically to empower you, reminding you that you are not powerless and that your mind and thoughts design your experience, regardless of the technology or external forces at play.
Those operating with impeccable guidance, harmony, and light are described as aligning with their dimensional counterparts, making bridges of light, holding energetic filaments, and opening portals.
And those who feel called to use sound in this way are said to evolve rapidly, potentially representing larger world gatherings and consciously changing planetary frequency with sound.
Okay, let's shift gears now and delve into a section that is particularly detailed in the source material. Chapters 19 and 20, which address integrating polarity, understanding sexuality, and the power of self-love as fundamental keys to achieving wholeness and making this evolutionary leap.
Right. The source states the planet, and by extension humanity, is searching for balance in the self, a composite of all aspects, e.t., multidimensional male and female. The core process described here is realizing you are already incredibly whole beings, and that the only thing hindering you is yourself.
It highlights the critical need to integrate and understand your emotional body, your femininity, and your masculinity to survive and understand what's unfolding now.
And a powerful insight from this section is the framing of personal dramas, particularly conflicts between men and women, or experiences of victimhood, not just as personal issues, but as symbolic mirrors of what needs to be resolved and made whole inside yourself. The source asserts that accessing multidimensionality absolutely requires merging and balancing the male and female energies within your own being.
The separation we see in the world, male, female, race, etc., is attributed by the source to what it calls creator gods, who set up these paradigms long ago and, perhaps surprisingly, fed off the emotional turmoil created by this separation and conflict.
The source claims that members of the family of light, which it suggests the listener is a part of, came specifically to bust this paradigm. They did this not by fighting externally, but by inserting themselves into archetypal human situations, embodying the struggles, to understand and transmute the collective energy for the masses by doing the work within themselves.
So healing yourself heals the species.
That's what the source states unequivocally, yes. Healing yourself heals the species and the mass psyche. It presents the idea that individuals carry specific energies to resolve collectively. We come in with reincarnational goodies or stuff in stimulating areas chosen specifically to get the hang of being human and understand the depth of experiences like powerlessness and the loss of the goddess energy on the planet.
Being locked in development by frequency and DNA manipulation for so long caused this internal fighting with the self and the perception of separation from others. Becoming complete means seeing all these experiences as part of your whole journey.
So the family of light came to transmute this collective energy for the species. By becoming less attached to personal dramas and seeing them as manifestations of collective energy, the inner realization broadcasts a new vibration for harmony. The source is very encouraging here, emphasizing acknowledging any headway made. Every time you feel as if you have made headway, you have.
That's good to hear. Don't discredit or judge yourself or others. Always look for what you gain from an experience.
Exactly. The most fundamental conflict, according to the source, is the male and female within you needing integration. This requires being kind and generous to yourself. Cooperation inside your own being naturally leads to cooperation outside, not just with other humans, but even with other beings the source refers to as space beings.
This internal integration is also presented as a path to becoming sovereign, having inner space to operate without feeling obligated to external pressures, while also allowing others the same right to their own space and process.
It's about redefining relationship itself as a cooperation of frequency, rather than obligation or need. Old ways of relating that feel irritating or limiting are being challenged as you discover and embody a freedom frequency to pull onto the planet, starting personally.
The source challenges conventional ideas of relationship, suggesting that they have often connoted ownership, citing the marriage tradition as an example, with its incredible expectancy about behavior. The call is to get clear on your own idea of relationship.
Right. It suggests there's no true ownership, unlike the responsibility with parenthood. Instead, you relate as an energy exchange. It delves into the historical imbalance, discussing how the male vibration has given its power away, citing government and war as examples where males have historically obeyed structures, completing a chain of giving personal power away.
It speaks extensively about the opening of feeling centers, noting that men, regardless of their physical gender, tend to have greater blocks here, with energy stuck in lower chakras or the sexual centers.
Yes. This is presented as part of a deliberate experiment where male energy was intended to run the world without feeling for about 4,000 to 5,000 years, while the female energy agreed to be submissive. The patriarchal movement is described as intentionally removing itself from the creative power of birthing to carry out experiments in war and annihilation.
The source explains that the female energy became stuck in the throat around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, symbolically agreeing to be silent about her magic and intuition. This is linked to the twin flame concept, but redefined as the male and female energy existing within one body, regardless of physical gender.
Exactly. The patriarchal society then has been run by the male aspect of the self, which the source says we have all experimented with across lifetimes. This was in preparation for this time when the flames will be lit together, referring to the full integration of masculine and feminine energies within your own body. The twin flame integration is within the self, and only after you've integrated it are you truly ready to seek a complete partner who is also integrated.
The source highlights the current time as a period of transition. Women are opening their throats, now is the time, finding their voice, but potentially shutting down their feeling centers in the process, mimicking the male pattern.
And men's primary challenge, conversely, is to open their feeling centers and allow feeling to enter their expression of sexuality and relationship. The source notes that this is why men may find it difficult relating to women. Right now, it's driving men crazy as the dynamics shift.
The suggestion is for the male vibration and the female aspect operating in her male energy to consciously move into feeling and sexuality, which requires emotional commitment and trust.
This electromagnetic stimulation opens frequency, and sexuality is presented as a powerful reminder of godhood. The source summarizes the historical dynamic. The male shut down feeling to dominate. The female speaking center was shut down for the male opportunity to explore that path fully. This is now coming to stabilization and equalization.
So things are changing.
Yes. The female energy opened her throat about 30 years ago, mastering the male vibration, feeling powerful in new ways. Now she is beginning to soften and reawaken her nurturing feeling aspect. As everyone makes themselves whole with their male and female portions and evolving DNA, this wholeness broadcasts a new frequency.
Men, the source says, will open their feeling centers very quickly as the next step. They are already moving into confusion and questioning authority structures that no longer serve.
And this activation for men is predicted to happen gently for some, or be blown wide open through mass events and waves of light hitting the planet. Women, at the same time, are expected to be infused with the opening of the heart chakra to have compassion while they witness their men going through this intense feeling process.
Female energy is awakening in everyone, regardless of physical gender. Women are redefining strength as females. Men are discovering vulnerability as essential.
Right. The source states that creating role models for empowered, integrated masculine and feminine is happening quickly, and time for separation is finished. To reiterate a critical point, twin flame integration is within the self. Only whole, integrated people can truly connect with other whole people.
These new relationships will be based on trust, desire, and choice, not need abandoning the old pattern of, I need you to complete me.
Correct. Merging your internal energies, your intuitive goddess aspect with your powerful generational aspect, allows you to find someone with the same qualities effortlessly. New relationship definitions are emerging. The source suggests that traditional marriage institution may mean less in this new paradigm.
Integrating polarities, of course, brings up difficult issues from our past. The source encourages us to welcome these issues as our greatest teacher, golden opportunities for growth.
The focus is always on your own growth, not trying to change others. Call on your internal masculine and feminine energies, and consciously set up a dialogue for partnership and harmony within. And this leads to perhaps the single most emphasized practical instruction in this entire section. Give yourself a lot of love and encouragement.
Literally make an appointment.
Yeah, the source suggests literally making an appointment with yourself to say, I love you, self. You are a wonderful self. The power of developing the dignity of your own love, truly believing in and loving yourself, is presented as the foundation that leads to inner strength, integration, and ultimately, things in your life going your way. The source notes that believing you deserve love, independent of external validation, is the most difficult but essential step.
The task is framed as mastering something incredibly difficult in a dark system that gives little information about how this process works. It's about doing the impossible by conventional standards.
And committing to love yourself as the absolute #1 step is presented as the master key that makes everything else fall into place, making you whole and complete, ready for a truly bonded relationship with another complete person to explore entirely new realms together.
Now, diving specifically into Chapter 20, the source addresses sexuality head-on. It states that the sexual parts of the body are intended to be avenues to pleasure that create healing and stimulating frequencies, ultimately leading to the higher spiritual self.
It emphasizes that sexuality is so misunderstood on this planet and is seldom used for its intended purpose as a bridge to take you to higher levels of consciousness. The source claims that individuals who use light and consciousness in their sexual connection with a partner are able to achieve very high states of consciousness and experience.
Okay, what about relationships? Monogamy.
Well, it notes that monogamy tends to work for most of you very well at the current vibrational state, because many partners can lead to less honesty, hiding, and scattering energy. But it clarifies this doesn't necessarily mean the same partner forever. The key qualities are loyalty, openness, and sharing, and being willing to terminate relationships that are no longer communicating, serving your growth, or making a collective leap.
Trust, the source says, develops most effectively one-on-one, and a relationship is described as acting as a mirror, showing you aspects of yourself reflected back from outside yourself, especially when there is open communication and deep intimacy.
But crucially, the source draws a sharp distinction here. This is not using sexuality as a distraction for getting close. It claims many people on the planet use sexuality precisely to avoid intimacy, by shutting down feeling centers and having shallow genital sex. Because true, deeper connection is too frightening or intense. It acknowledges that hot sex is great, but insists there is more.
Fears based on sexual history are discussed as affecting the soul and being broadcast through the body. The source puts a strong emphasis on stopping judgment and getting neutral about past sexual experiences, no matter how heinous it seems.
The purpose of these experiences, no matter how difficult, is presented as gathering data and understanding yourselves on a deep level. Sexuality is called a frequency, a direct link to your higher identity that was never actually taken away, even though memory and identity were scattered. The ability to discover the self was always available through sexual experience, the source says, but it was never taught or understood this way.
The source includes a section that is quite critical of organized religion, specifically calling it church bashing.
Yes, it views churches as organizations that historically sought to control religion and spiritual development, promoting sexuality solely for procreation, teaching it was bad or disgusting, and tying it to marriage rights, which it calls a marketing program.
The historical belief that women had no control over childbearing is discussed as specifically hindering their exploration of the sexual self and their realization of inherent freedom. The source reiterates that only you decide whether to birth a child based on your conscious decision and intention, not external biological determinism or religious dictate.
The highest frequency of sexuality, the source states, arises from the love experience. This is presented as independent of homosexual or heterosexual distinction. It's about two humans bringing pleasure and opening consciousness frequencies by sharing love. Damage comes, it clarifies, only when integrity and love are missing from the exchange.
The orgasmic experience is described as the frequency link to your higher identity. It's presented as a key moment that allows memory to be revealed and unites your multidimensional identity in the physical form.
And this process involves both the mental body, the physical aspect, and critically, the emotional body, the spiritual aspect. The emotional body is specifically highlighted again as key to connecting to your multidimensional selves and your spiritual body. It's where the source says most people get stuck.
Accepting your stuff, your issues, your past trauma, your perceived imperfections is framed as accepting the treasures of your life and the means by which you learn and grow, not ugly parts to hide away.
Sexuality is called a primary issue, and the secret self that has been hidden from us, heavily influenced by societal laws. The source challenges this by asking, who gave you these laws? Who decreed these rules?
Being stuck in life is linked in part to not understanding the symbols and deeper meanings of our experiences, leading to dwelling on issues and perhaps uncomfortably loving stories about our victimhood or struggles for attention.
Observing the body, the source says, teaches the self profound truths. Healing involves dwelling more completely in the physical body with a new, integrated identity that includes a healthy understanding of sexuality. Sexuality is a key, a doorway to the higher realms, and it will change dramatically as you redefine yourselves. The source notes it's the area people are most frightened of right now.
Being stuck on the idea of external love, looking outside yourself for validation and completion, is also discussed as a learned pattern that leads to anger or feelings of worthlessness when you are without a relationship.
Right. The source reiterates, love yourself and honor Earth is the most important thing, but people constantly forget, prioritizing the search for external relationships. Feeling lonely without a relationship is connected to the need to learn how to be alone.
Right.
Loneliness, the source states, is a state of mind, emphasizing that you are never, never alone and can receive data and presence from multitudes of entities once you open yourself to it.
The instruction is to stop feeling sorry for yourselves and become receptive to this non-physical connection.
Exactly. Loving yourself is presented as the path that removes the convoluted need for others' love, allowing you to accept what is offered from a place of wholeness, not lack. Value yourself, the source urges, so that you do not settle for a love disguised, meaning a relationship based on need, control, or incomplete giving.
If you set a value for yourself in a relationship and it's not met, the source advises, simply change your reality and continue onward alone until someone reflects your inherent value, all while vibrating strongly in self-love.
The journey is one of self-discovery, happening within the context of relationships with others, always honoring your body and uniqueness. The fear of intimacy with the self, of being alone with your own feelings and thoughts, is acknowledged as common. The path forward is to develop intimacy, silence, self-love, and the conscious containment of your energy as the foundation for intimacy with others.
Sexuality is presented as confusing now precisely because everyone's frequencies are raising. Joining bodies is described as an exchange of frequency, an electromagnetic transfer of essence.
Learning to raise your frequency requires consistent information, dedication to self-love, and practicing self-intimacy. Merging your vulnerable self with another, especially at higher frequencies, can feel incredibly frightening. The source states that as you become more aware, it becomes essential to take charge of how you use your body and who you choose to mix with sexually due to this energetic exchange.
The source mentions that during periods of rapid evolution, a period of dormancy in sexual activity occurs for some individuals, leading them to question if they are drying up.
This is presented as a temporary phase. It also cautions that exchanging intimately with someone not of your likeness, meaning someone operating at a significantly different frequency or with incompatible intentions, means taking on their garbage, and your inner guidance may lead you away from such connections.
The source explicitly discusses learning to use your sexual energy without necessarily giving it to another person. It says things like masturbation are perfectly legitimate as a way to explore and understand your own energy.
Or simply observing the arousal. and consciously deciding how to use that energy, letting it rise and directing it into other areas of your life or creativity. The Source emphasizes a crucial point in this journey. You must adore, sustain, and love yourself as if you are holding yourself like a newborn babe.
Finding serenity and silence within yourself is key for receiving answers and guidance, rather than constantly seeking them from others. You cannot hear your own inner guidance if you are locked in patterns of seeking external validation or fear changing those patterns.
The common fear of yourselves, the underlying fear of incompleteness, is acknowledged as the root of much struggle, the back-and-forth internal battle. The path is to learn to still your mind and become completely in charge of your energy by observing yourself without judgment and consciously self-correcting your patterns. Quiet your mind to hear.
Frequency is carried through love bonding, which the Source clarifies doesn't necessarily mean forever cleaving to one person in the old sense. Relationships are appropriate as long as you honor and exchange energies in an open circuit.
Right. If there's no love or bonded intention, the exchange isn't happening in the same way, the circuitry isn't open, even if physically good sex is possible. Raising the electrical current in your body through this work leads to greater heights of orgasmic experience as your nervous system develops the capacity to handle higher frequencies.
Your nervous system determines the expression and feeling of these energies. A poorly evolved nervous system, the Source says, means limited experience. Orgasmic experience is presented as a powerful tool that can heal and realign the body.
The 60s are mentioned again as a period that opens sexual exploration and broke paradigms, including the use of mind-altering substances which also challenge perception. A whole new revolution is coming in sexuality, the Source predicts. It's about being vibrationally hooked to a person, going beyond body aerobics to the aerobics and contortions of the soul, the vibration.
The depth of two people truly linking their energies and consciousness.
Exactly. Acknowledging the fear this might bring due to a lack of existing framework for understanding, the Source emphasizes that you must design one yourself, trusting that the cosmic blueprint for evolution is bringing a new movement based on desire and conscious choice.
Remembering past sexual expressions clearly, even from across lifetimes, is presented as requiring courage, as sexuality is where you and the planet have placed the most judgment. You may be shocked by what you remember about past expressions.
Sexuality, the Source concludes this section by stating, has always been the body's intrinsic link to higher frequency. This understanding was misunderstood and lost, but it's a bigger story and an exciting frontier. It states that in the next few years, sexuality will acquire a completely new dimension, evolving consciously with a willing partner, but you won't get there through avoidance or denial of its power and significance.
Finally, let's wrap up our deep dive into this material with Chapter 21, which brings everything together with a focus on commitment, grounding, the emotional body, and the concept of the light body.
The Source begins by reassuring us that we have this knowledge inside already. The process is about activating the memory. For those feeling like they need concrete steps, a formula that works is presented.
Okay, what's the formula?
Step 1. Consistently set out with clarity what you wish to experience daily, using intentional language, like, "It is my intention." Examples include creating a harmonious lifestyle, experiencing vibrant health, attracting abundance, and consciously passing it on. The Source notes this directly challenges typical training that teaches us to accept limitations.
Step 2 is simple but requires discipline. Devote a small portion of time, 2 to 3 times a day, specifically to getting clear about what you want to intend.
Step 3 involves energy work. Every day, consciously open your energy centers or chakras. The Source references 12 total, 7 within the physical body and 5 outside, above and below. You do this by calling in the frequency of light, visualizing a pillar of light entering you. Visualize the light entering, your chakras spinning and aligning, activating your light-encoded filaments, and rebundling your DNA into 12 helixes.
So the core methods summarized are conscious intentions stated with clarity, dedicating specific time to this daily, using breathing to focus, calling in the pillar of light, visualizing your chakras spinning, and intending the activation and rebundling of your DNA.
Right. And as a practical postscript to this formula, the Source adds the importance of drinking tremendous amounts of water, fresh, purified, or spring water, describing it as a crucial conduit or conductor for rapid frequency alteration, keeping your system open and flowing to handle the energy.
The source also recommends cultivating altered state experiences, but with conscious control, not feeling out of control. This is presented as a way to gather information, consciously change probabilities or move on the corridor of time, alter your life circumstances, and importantly, return to your normal state with full use of your will and intention.
Doing this consciously, it says, accelerates your evolution and allows more energy onto the planet, because there are those who can accommodate and ground it. The source uses the analogy of oil wells to explain how we house and direct our energy gifts like natural resources in the earth. We hold light and energy within us. Combining this inner energy with conscious will is what creates wealth in terms of accessibility to higher information and mastery over our experience.
And the essential aspect that underpins this entire process is stated as to value Earth and her experience first and foremost.
There's a natural temptation for some, as they start accessing higher realms and experiences, to want to stay there, forgetting the fundamental task is here, grounded on Earth. The source strongly emphasizes you must stay grounded.
Without grounds, things connecting you consciously to Earth and the mundane world, like walking outside or simple daily routines, rapid spiritual acceleration can cause difficulty with the nervous system.
Yeah, you might struggle to translate and use the information you're receiving without feeling overloaded or being able to stay calm and present. The current conflict of energies playing out on the planet is described as a battle over whose frequency will prevail and who will own, manipulate, and train your frequency.
This leads to a profound question posed directly to the listener. Who are you as a frequency in disguise as a human, and what specifically is your job in this time?
The source stresses the essential need to consciously know who you are and what you are doing here as you become interdimensional and multidimensional, and your body undergoes rapid change that your nervous system must handle. You must learn to handle many realities at once, become aware that you're doing it, and utilize Earth as the primary place to translate and integrate that information.
Your fundamental purpose here is presented as to ground information and energy into Earth.
Right. When you find yourself electrified or energized, perhaps in an altered state of consciousness, the instruction is to consciously intend to become a conduit, like a big pipeline. Your job is to funnel that higher energy through yourself into Earth, acknowledging the multidimensional expression and allowing it to flow without initially analyzing it with the logical mind.
Another key area is discovering and working with the emotional body. This is done, the source says, by consciously decreeing that emotions can be trusted, that they are good, safe, beneficial, and that they can take you somewhere. They are vehicles for understanding and information.
The invitation is to actively look at what your emotions are doing for you. In emotion, the source states, you are accessing information from many realities. The practice is to find that emotional frequency and learn to hold it consciously.
The universal belief that emotions are uncontrollable is directly challenged. The source insists they are not. You can learn to feel emotion deeply internally while appearing calm externally.
Setting up a conscious way to feel without judging the emotion itself. The goal is to see where the emotion takes you, what information it provides, what is the next step it reveals, and eventually learn to disengage from the external event that triggered it while retaining the internal information.
Bodywork is mentioned as a tool for release, as tissue and muscle are often used as armor, burying information. The source emphasizes that the skeletal form is where the core story is held, while the blocks are held in tissue.
So accessing the bone-level truth requires going through these layers held in the muscles and tissues. Your inner blueprint, what you came here to achieve or explore, is described as getting excited, like a child's game of warmer when you get close to aligning with it. Your body gets excited and takes in information, not the logical mind.
Allowing emotions free rein, exploring them without judgment or control, is presented as leading to a much more satisfying life experience than trying to suppress them.
The critical need for emotions is stressed repeatedly, countering the pride some people have in not being emotional or sensitive. The source gives a strong warning. This lack of emotional engagement will bring about your destruction because it cuts you off from vital information.
Revisiting past issues, like those with parents or early life experiences, is possible with more vision and understanding from this higher ground, using tools like bodywork or crystal work.
Information is stored in both stone and bone, again stressing the importance of working with your skeletal structure and Earth's crystalline matrix. The instruction is to let things come out without chastising yourself, to view the release of old energy or trauma not as a failure, but as discovering a gold mine. like becoming a newly birthed wealthy person. Embrace the process with excitement. This is wonderful. There's more here. I love it.
The source frames all you go through as what you decide you have to go through, even if that decision was made before this lifetime. You are presented as actively opening avenues of consciousness for the planet through your personal process.
It suggests you are clearing the easier stuff now, and the more bizarre or challenging aspects will come later when you're more blasé about navigating intense experiences. Everything, it says, happens in its own divine time. The mutation everyone is undergoing is defined as the evolution or plugging in of internal data to external data, connecting your inner knowing to the outer reality.
And the clearing is specifically defined as accessing and processing through your emotional bodies.
Right. The source reiterates the fundamental point. You need the emotional body to understand the spiritual body.
Okay.
Because the spiritual is non-physical and accessed and felt through emotions. A warning is given against getting lost, endlessly processing traumas, calling it not useful and not cool.
Okay.
While acknowledging these issues need examining and are a banquet of nourishment, the instruction is to eat the food, gain the insight and energy, and then make another banquet. Quit holding onto the drama itself. Put the processing in perspective as a necessary step, not the final destination.
The human body is actively evolving and changing, needing us to forget taught nutritional beliefs and instead learn to listen to your body directly for guidance on diet. Changes in what your body wants to eat are common as your vibration raises.
The vibration carried in food is discussed, using the meat industry as an example, where animals not raised or killed with love and fed steroids or antibiotics carry that lower vibration that is then ingested. Animals, the source claims, were meant to be companions, and if consumed, food provided with love and respect.
The instruction is to let your body speak to you about its needs and be willing to change your diet based on that inner guidance. The source gives a simple method. Intend that you wish to change your diet, and then intend that things come to you. The right foods, the right information.
It reiterates that you are more than just physical beings having guides and higher support available, but you need clear intentions to access this. What do you want? Stated clearly, I intend. The source says, the words I intend have tremendous power in shaping reality.
True health is described not just as physical well-being, but as having 12 mutated and evolved helixes of DNA fully activated, leading to full brain capacity, the potential to be geniuses, telepathic, hosts of the living library, capable of accessing any information field at will.
The aspiration is to become impeccable keepers of frequency, holding knowledge and information of the highest order, understanding what it means to be an unlimited being, and making that frequency available to others simply by living it. The source suggests a time is coming when you will no longer need to seek information outside yourself in the same way.
Instead, entities or higher aspects of self will come to trigger, gather, and cluster with you and others to reflect and charge each other, creating sparks of light and openings for new understanding.
When something clicks, when one person have a moment of recognition or insight, the source says a frequency of recognition is sent out, and others pick it up unconsciously. A group mind connected by frequency grows electromagnetically. Individuals must trigger themselves into multidimensionality.
The desire has to come first. You must consciously state, I wish to go into this multidimensional experience. What do I want to do?
You structure this desire and show seriousness by participating in events, actions, rituals, and ceremonies, interpreted broadly as anything that demonstrates your commitment and structures your life to send that signal to the universe and your higher self. This is introduced as living prayer, distinct from begging external lords.
Every moment, every action has meaning and leads you forward because of how you act and focus your intention. It involves bringing conscious intention into your environment, having an altar, surrounding yourself with sacred things, ensuring nothing around you is without meaning.
The source notes the challenge this poses, consciously getting rid of meaningless things in your life and space. Using an altar or engaging in personal ritual is presented as stirring cellular memory, bringing ancient teachings into active memory. It puts you in the now, honoring Mother Earth aspects. You create personal significance for objects and actions.
Things exist in your reality, the source says, because someone energized them with meaning or intention. It highlights the profound power of the individual mind and will to restructure reality.
The source strongly states that no one on Earth now is without the impulse to evolve. It was necessary to come here with that potential already seated within. Portals and blueprints were specifically designed for this period of rapid evolution. The book itself is framed as process and a trigger, containing hidden keys to activate that memory.
It encourages acting on the impulses, whispering, "You are part of this family of light, and Earth is a living library." Rewards exist for this journey. Challenges won't stop, but you achieve a stance of mastery.
This involves learning to read symbols everywhere and trusting and following your impulses. Multidimensionality is about opening channels to higher frequencies, receiving transmissions and knowings directly. The limits of our current vocabulary for these non-physical realms are acknowledged. Spirit, in this context, is defined simply as that which is not physical or 3D.
The trampoline analogy is used for spiritual practice. Bounding for the gold of higher understanding and connection sends you into the realm of spirit, which is not lost or destroyed, but is a vault that all of the ancient shamans and masters practiced and maintained as a potentiality for humanity.
The challenge for the teachers in this source material is transducing their multidimensional way of life into our evolving systems of understanding. The source states you are heading toward this multidimensional existence unless you consciously check out or resist the process. How you encounter it is up to you.
There's a powerful challenge given to the listener. Go to the edge of a cliff, step off, and stand in the air. Be out there, courageous enough to embrace the impossible.
Recognize the heretic inside of you, the part that knows deeper truths that contradict consensus reality, and let that part break your reality open. This transformation, the source says, will be done by the masses of individuals, not initiated by a single world leader.
Love is introduced as what you experience when you go beyond light. Light, in this framework, is information. You need to integrate the information first.
Right. Without integrating the light frequency, the love frequency is misunderstood, often projected outside the self in forms of worship or deification. The source explains it chose to operate with light first in this book, to inform, strengthen, and fire the blueprints within us.
Now, being informed by this light, you are better able to understand the challenge of multidimensional light infusion, which naturally leads to the experience of the love frequency.
Extending love consciously to other versions of yourself, past, present, or probable future selves, creates massive healing. These are presented as powerful, life-altering experiences. As you integrate this, you might find yourself walking around with a spontaneous smile, experiencing a vibration of ecstasy and profound connectedness. This state draws everything resonating with you effortlessly, while things not resonating won't get near you or may even seem unable to see you.
Operating consciously in information, creation, and love means spreading this frequency simply by living it, allowing others to feel it. The source states you are invaluable in this process.
Those who master this integration, which the source insists all can do, will be in demand, potentially looked upon as superhuman by those just beginning to awaken. But the key is to teach and share, not separate yourself. These frequencies are to be shared freely so everyone can discover their own potential. This, the source concludes, is how the planet evolves.
You will see rumblings of consciousness internally and externally as internal Earth changes, which are rites of passage.
The material presented in the book is framed as harmonizing purposes, pooling energies, a succinct message of inspiration, waves of truth, a tickle designed to call forward the hidden self and awaken what you already know deep inside. It's about understanding reality's illusion and your active part in creating it.
The source describes the material as stimulating and moving, encouraging comfort, even when challenged, urging you to climb mountain ranges of consciousness, find valleys of eternal youth, discover new vistas, and ride a galactic wave of light from the future.
The final message in the book, chapter 22, is described as intentionally using the master number vibration, 22, imprinting a master teaching, and encoding it with layers of information beyond just the words. Ideas, conflicts, solutions, and inspiration are woven together to lead you to a final commitment to inspire yourself.
The orchestration behind the scenes, where chaos might have seemed to reign, is presented as having created its own order, summed up under the vibration of 22.
The final message conveyed deeply into the soul and heart is to hear the call, to step forward consciously as a member of the family of light. It requires the courage to live that light authentically and share it, not by preaching or selling, but by simply living the light you know you are, discovering your purpose in that simplicity, blossoming and actively reseeding this place that is planet Earth in its deepest time of transition.
Moving into a higher octave of being, blending dimensions, entering this new territory naturally leads to a greater understanding of death, not as an end, but as a transition. Light, as embodied knowledge and presence, is needed, representing what you know and are becoming.
The book is presented as a reminder that this potential and knowledge is already inside you. It's time to share your discoveries and the miracles of operating this physical vehicle consciously. Death is rebirth. Something new is always born from the old. You are needed now to share your belief in creating reality through thoughts, to show others how it works through your own healing and by embodying new ideals of civilization and cooperation.
The unfolding days will reveal ancient prophecies coming alive, playing out in colorful, unique versions, each teaching important lessons.
Evolving in this way means carrying this knowledge forward, sharing it, and living it fully, becoming a greater vessel of light. The source predicts that in the next few years, you will be catapulted beyond the speed of light with what you will know and experience. All the necessary abilities, talents, and information are presented as already inside you.
The light body is described as the culmination, holding the complete mutation and activation of your potential, capable of juggling multiple realities simultaneously by simply shifting consciousness or intent, like changing channels on a TV.
It holds encoded data and can translate it at will, communicating interdimensionally and interdimensionally. Matter itself is explained as trapped light. Building the light body is presented as a reorganization of your molecular structure, actively loosening the grip of materialism in your consciousness and allowing a deeper spiritual understanding to guide you.
Less trapped matter means allowing more light, which is inherently freer and seeks its source to become who you are, making you less solid in the conventional sense.
Raising your vibratory rates, then, leads to becoming the light body, potentially seeing literal changes in your physical form, becoming more vital, youthful, nourished from within, a powerful processor of information. The goal is becoming a super being.
Extending longevity and cellular rejuvenation are part of this light body building process. The source says you would already be experiencing your light body and feeling it if your logical mind wasn't so worried about whether it's even possible, because society doesn't tell you this is something humans can do.
Approaching all you know and experience with a stance of divine order and divine purpose, even if your ego cannot fully comprehend, it is presented as the way to move rapidly through realities and access these potentials. The galactic tidal wave of light described throughout the book will be experienced in many different ways by different people, but it will catapult everyone into an exaggerated version of their greatest opportunity, which is ultimately each person's choice in how they respond.
The final words from the source material include gratitude to those who recognize the light source within themselves, the impulse that moved you to seek this information, perhaps to read this book, and to follow those silent whispers down golden spirals of intuition.
The source offers honor, recognition, and assistance to those on this path. The family of light, it reiterates, is here bringing the choice and the freedom to evolve back into your full potential. Earth, through this process, will shine as a living library, becoming a new star. And the closing statement from the source is a powerful and poetic one. We wait in the future for your past to intersect our present and catapult all of existence to a new octave, the highest octave of being. It is, the source concludes, their great pleasure to have your assistance in this process.
Wow, Wanderers. We've covered a tremendous amount in this deep dive, bringing our three-part exploration of Bringers of the Dawn to a close. We've looked at our profound responsibility to this living planet and the potential for massive Earth changes as a teaching tool, not just destruction.
We've delved into the intricate workings of our nervous systems, adapting to new energies, and the symbolic yet powerful reality of the language of light. And we've spent significant time on the fundamental importance of integrating our internal masculine and feminine energies and understanding sexuality not as something to be judged or feared, but as a key, a powerful doorway to accessing higher consciousness.
We've explored the idea that our personal dramas mirror collective energies, and that the work of healing within ourselves transmutes energy not just for us, but for the entire planet and the mass psyche.
Yeah, and we've touched on the immense power of clear intention, the necessity of staying grounded on Earth, even as we expand into multidimensionality, and the vital role of seeing emotions as trustworthy, essential access points to the non-physical realm and deeper truths.
The source material, throughout these sections, makes it crystal clear that the knowledge and abilities needed for this transformation aren't some external secret to be found, but are already encoded within each of us waiting to be activated through courage, through self-love, and through a willingness to challenge old paradigms and limiting beliefs about ourselves and reality.
So as we conclude this series on Bringers of the Dawn, maybe consider this provocative thought. What if the act of loving yourself unconditionally, navigating your internal landscape with integrity and compassion, and truly owning your power as a keeper of frequency is not just a personal journey? What if it is, in fact, the most powerful and essential contribution you can possibly make to the evolution of consciousness on this planet right now? What might that look like specifically in your everyday life starting today?
Something to really sit with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, Wonders. We appreciate you bringing your curiosity and your presence to this conversation.